Mars, the fourth planet from the sun, and known to many as the Red Planet. Named after the Roman god of war, whose Greek equivalent is Ares! Kratos said calmly. A desolate planet with an atmosphere made of carbon dioxide, nitrogen, and argon gas. A planet completely devoid of all life. But not more devoid of life than me after marathoning the story since chapter 38 for 5 days straight. But it was all worth it, just to be caught up in time for some nice, big, juicy content. Repeat it with me, everyone. Part 2 is here! APHO combat is finally in the game, which means the devil no longer may cry, but actually did cry. Together with Senadina, Helia, and Coralie, you too can fight for the future. On this stellar journey from Earth to Mars, let me, Jayniro, your Pepega Honkai Twitch streamer guide, be your guide to the future of Honkai combat. With that being said, let's dive straight into the sea of data and talk about Senadina. So, Part 2 has brought a lot of changes to the game, and with it, a whole slew of changes to combat moving forward as well. For starters, we can finally jump! No longer shall we be chained and shackled to the ground! Secondly though, the skill screen now looks scarier than a Yu-Gi-Oh card in 2024, with 8 different nodes now, compared to the standard 6 we had just a few patches ago. Especially with the new astral ring mechanic added, but it furthers the ever-growing depth of this game and cementing it as Hoyo's greatest title to date. And spearheading this newfound depth is Senadina. Bringing APHO combat to the main game, Senadina aims to work with her astral ring companions to take down combatants in a way we haven't seen before in the main game. Combining true ground and aerial combat, Senadina clears the way with her trusty yo-yo. Her basic mechanics revolve around the Thunderous Blaze state. Through combining her basic attacks and weapon skill, she can enter this special state to enhance her drive core's actions. In order to enter this state, Sardine needs to acquire Thunderous Pulse, which comes from her basic sequence 4, or QTE, which also clears overheat. This turns her weapon active into Thunderous Strike, which is what allows her to enter the Thunderous Blazer state. When she's in this state, if she connects Thunderous Strike, she gains Thunderous Pulse again, which levels up Thunderous Strike to Thunder in Clear Skies. It seems complicated right now, but it just boils down to alternating between basic attack and weapon active when they flash. Just like in classic APHO style, the majority of damage comes from the Astral Ring mechanic new to the main game. At max charge, activating Astral Ring causes the entire team to enter Stellar Outburst for a short period of time. This is when the team activates Sicko mode and goes stupid and crazy on damage. In Stellar Outburst, Fish Girl's Thunder in Clear Skies gets leveled up to Lightning Flash Anchor, where she yeets a giant anchor at enemies like Larry the Lobster did to SpongeBob. This effectively is the most important part of her kit, as doing such will place a domain resonance mark on the field. These domain marks can be activated from teammates' resonance attacks to trigger special actions and grant massive damage. For Senna, it's her anchor. For Helia, it's her grenade. And for Coralie, it's her Bay Wheels move, where she... When Senna activates Stellar Outburst, she exits the Thunderous Blazer state, clears overheat, and then grants herself Thunderous Pulse and 1 Quantum Mech Energy, which allows her to upgrade her weapon skill to the Anchor. The last relevant part of her kit we need to talk about is her ultimate. It's her largest burst move and also triggers Time Frozen Domain, which pauses all skill timers and the stage timer. The normal generic rotation we'll see for the team will rotate through the 3 characters as if we're playing APHO. Senna will trigger Helia's QTE with either her weapon active or evasion attack. Helia rotates in and uses weapon active until she can toss her grenade, and then finishes with ult triggering Coralie's QTE. Coralie enters and Kuru's twice before swapping back to Senna with her QTE. Senna's on-field attack rotation is the most complex given she's the main DPS of the team. After entering, Senna does her weapon active, basic attack, weapon active 2 times, her ultimate, her evasion attack, basic attack, and then her weapon active again twice. This rotation works everywhere and is fairly quick. However, it's a far cry from the full rotation for maximum damage. This full rotation though is so long it makes the Hersho Trio's rotation look like it came from Genshin. Sit back and grab some popcorn, everyone, because this is about to be longer than Drake. If you know, you know. The full rotation for the Part 2 team is as follows. Start with using evasion attack or Senna's weapon active. Use Helia's QTE, her weapon active, the weapon active flash, her ultimate, Coralie's QTE, Coralie Kuru's twice, ultimate, Senna's QTE, weapon active, basic attack, weapon active twice, ultimate, dodge basic attack, weapon active again, then Stellar Outburst to reset overheat, weapon active 3 times to throw the anchor down and create a domain resonance mark, Helia QTE, weapon active, Weapon active flash for the resonance attack, Coralie QTE, Kuru 5 times, each being a resonance attack, Senna QTE, weapon active, weapon active, weapon active for a third time, dodge, basic attack, weapon active, and then finishing with ultimate. Like I said, it was a very long rotation and it's very complex. One thing to note is that if your ultimate is more than likely going to fall outside of Stellar Outburst, you really want that to be inside Stellar Outburst, as you'll gain 40% more lightning damage from it being inside the Stellar Outburst duration. Now that we've gone over her kit, let's go over what exactly to put on her to boost her greatly. Part 2 brought some amazing changes that'll make Genshin and Star Royal players absolutely froth at the mouth. Apart from expansion character pity going from 100 and guaranteed to 90 and guaranteed, the gear banner changes from 50 pity to 60 pity. The caveat though is that the off-rate gear is no longer on the banner. The rates for Stigmata skyrocket from 3.72% to 14.59%, and the weapon though stays at 2.48%. The final piece of the puzzle is that all Stigmata going forward for part 2 and beyond will be craftable, and only the weapon will be gacha exclusive. Luckily, we're getting better craftable weapons than what we've had in the past, since the new characters use new weapon types. But if we do get any additional characters in the future that use some previous weapon types, we might just be SOL. Can't say for sure though. For her signature yo-yo, when she casts weapon skill, it increases lightning damage by 35% for 6 seconds. Outside of Stellar Burst, enemies take 15% more lightning damage, and on Senna specifically, they take 16% more elemental damage when Astral Ring is activated. Additionally, the total damage of weapon skills, ultimates, and burst mode attacks is increased by 20% outside of Stellar Outburst, and on Senna, all teammates deal 35% more lightning damage through resonance. For the synergy skill, which is the new weapon dupe system skill, enemies take at base 4% more total damage from the weapon skill, up to 12%. This is very minor, so I wouldn't recommend going for dupes unless you're either a Mega Whale or a top 100 and Myriad competitor. As far as Senna's signature set goes, the Perfect Joy set is without a doubt best in slot on her. Across the T, M, and B pieces, the equipper gains 20% total damage, 20% elemental damage, and 25% weapon skill total damage. Equipped on Senna specifically, she gains 40% lightning damage, 40% more lightning damage, and causes enemies to take 20% more lightning damage respectively. Additionally, after activating Astral Ring Specialization World Star, she increases the elemental damage from characters with Domain Resonance, which is an Astral Ring attribute, by 30% outside of Stellar Outburst. Increases the team's total and elemental damage permanently outside of Stellar Outburst by 25% if she consumes 30 or more SP while it's active, and increases the elemental damage that enemies take from Domain Resonance characters by 25% outside of Stellar Outburst, all respectively. Additionally, we have the set bonuses. The 2-piece set bonus increases total damage by 20%. On Senna specifically, it causes her to deal 30% additional lightning damage from her weapon skill, and causes Domain Resonance characters in the team to have 25% more total damage after Stellar Outburst. The 3-piece set causes all enemies to take 10% more total damage from the equipper. On Senna, it also causes them to take 24% more total damage in general, and then 25% more total damage from Resonance. In Stellar Outburst, if she consumes 30 SP or more on standby, then enemies take 15% more total damage and elemental damage for 30 seconds. Totaling all these effects up together, listen, I'm not going to total all these up since I'm low on time because only 1 week beta, but just know that the multipliers here are massive. Alright? In the meantime though, while you farm out your Stigmata, let's talk about some alternative Stigmata sets, since there aren't any alternative weapon options other than the new gacha weapons and the craftable versions themselves. One thing to get out of the way first, don't listen to the equipment tab in the game at all. It's just bad. It really is just bad. With that out of the way though, the first set I want to talk about is Handel. It's the G4 set that came out with Eden. It's very, very good to the point that it's even the best in slot set for HT, aka Hersher of Thunder. Just shy in damage from this though, however, is going to be a Ponya set if you have it. The overall damage is minute in difference, but still pales in comparison to the signature set by about 10 million damage. With gear out of the way now, let's move on to her teammates, since this isn't exactly straightforward. Just in time for part 2, we now have new ways to look at team building. To start things off for all the newbies coming in, the most obvious answer here is the complete part 2 team with Heli and Coralie. Heli and Coralie are both on Senadina's banner here, so you're bound to get them, especially with the 4 out of 4 Coralie being given for free. The sheer synergy they have together is tailor-made and is about as synergistic as the Hersher trio were when they came out, and still are. Now here's the catch that you weren't expecting. I'm gonna keep it real. Helia and Coralie feel pretty bad to use in this team if they're below SS. This is because a lot of their support upgrades are locked behind ranks, but just like SP Valks, they're completely farmable in the asteroid shop through their fragments. Below SS though, I wouldn't recommend using them in a team unless you're new and they're your only option at this point. If you aren't new and have a Valk collection, let's talk for a second. Prior to SS Helia and Coralie, Senna sees much better use in the Part 1 teams. Primarily we're looking at Eden to take the lead spot, and HTR or some other Valks like AE, Kira, or Pardo if you're lacking HTR. Senna isn't in the lead spot here simply because her leader skill revolves around Astral Ring and also forces the Astral Ring system to be active. In a Part 2 team, this isn't an issue since Astral Ring charges on each character, making for low cooldown time. But in a Part 1 team, the charge time is excruciatingly painfully long, which is why we use Eden in the lead instead. Her leader skill is actually very good, but also comes with the benefit of letting elf skills use their elf skills instead of astral op skills. Now here's the kicker. In Memorial Arena, the Part 2 team is not good at all. The rotation needed for large damage takes far too long even at SS level bosses for Memorial Arena, which is essentially a boss rush mode. Part 1 team is used here exclusively until they add in bosses that can only be dealt with via the Astral Ring mechanics. For the teammates, we're sticking with Eden in the lead, but the primary damage partner is going to be Lunar Vow. While providing the same breach as Hersher Truth, despite not giving all the additional buffs that HTR gives, her own damage more than makes up for the discrepancies seen, which will allow for much faster clears. Finally, let's get to the whale section if some of this wasn't whale enough already for you. As I've mentioned in the past, Honkai possesses its own system similar to Constellations in Genshin and Eidolons in Star Rail, which is the rank up system. After pulling a dupe, instead of getting a singular item like in other games and similar to Astral Ops, the dupe card converts to fragments. After getting enough fragments, the character can be subsequently ranked up. In between each letter rank is housed 3 number ranks, which makes ranking up far nicer than having 70 fragments just lying around since you don't have enough for the next letter rank. Her S1 lets her basic 4 deal 200% of her attack as bonus lightning damage. While this is nice, it isn't as nice as her S2, which gives her damage versus SD type enemies, max HP, and AoE effect passing it on to up to 5 nearby SD type enemies. This is all okay, but her SS is really nice. The duration of her Thunderous Blazer is increased by a second, and you gain a second ultimate evasion attempt and gives bonus lightning damage to her basic 3, which can change her rotation and increase her damage. SS1 increases the already present total lightning damage, elemental breach, and elemental damage present on domain resonance characters. SS2 increases the damage of Thunder and Clear Skies, and also the damage enemies take from Senna herself. SS3 is her second leader skill upgrade, and SS is by far the largest boost here, causing the active character to deal more total damage and causing the domain resonance mark to deal 130% of Senna's own attack to up to 5 enemies during Stellar Outburst. If you're getting anything extra here, I'd say SS or bust. The upgrades seem pretty minor and don't really provide much value unless you're at the upper end of the spectrum of players. All in all, Senna and the Part 2 team are amazing, and I'm super happy that they're finally here, so APHL combat can be experienced by everyone. The only thing that sucks here, though, is that new players won't be able to experience it until level 30, despite Part 1 story being one of the best I've ever seen. The other thing is that we've had beta for only a week, and I had to make this video in less than a day. So, yay!